Or, I mean, you obviously knew his name as far as, the Rangers or anybody probably, just saying, everybody's heard of his name as far as him going number one. But let me ask you, KD, did you ever look into him prior to, us, actually getting the pick?
I didn't. I'm going to be honest. I didn't want to let myself get too excited about the kid, where I'd be, oh man, the day of the draft lotto really be, so excited for the kid and then be let down and be miserable about it. So I hadn't watched a single highlight video. I hadn't read a single article, nothing. And as soon as they picked that ping pong ball, I've been immersed in Lafreniere, videos and articles and everything. And the kid is as impressive as everyone says he is.
Let's start there, Katie. Let me tell us what you've seen so far, what you've read up on him, and give us a little review of what you've been able to gather about this kid over the last 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I haven't watched like a full game, so take this with a grain of salt and whatever. But I was impressed with his playmaking ability. He's not just he's not just a sniper. He's a playmaker out there. He could set up his teammates, as a winger, which was nice to see. That he's not just a stand there and shoot guy or just relies on his speed and that kind of thing. So, he's a bit of a playmaker where, as you mentioned, he's a smart guy where you said he was smart in the interviews and you could tell he's a mature kid, but he's also smart on the ice. He knows where to go. He anticipates plays. And to me, that's what makes it more exciting. A lot of these big time guys and juniors, they could show off the skill set, but once they're playing against other, NHLers, they can't step to that next level. But, guys who think the game and are smart and know where to go and see the game, sort of see things before they happen. And he seems to be that kind of player, which has me, more excited about him than the actual, goals that he's scoring and the moves that he's making out there, because I would say, 80% of the NHLers can make those kind of moves because they all have that kind of talent. But, it's that upper crust of players that, are seeing things out there that others aren't. And he seems like a guy who's going to be able to do that.
That's great, man. I mean, it's, like I said, again, just quickly, I'm sure everybody, all the fans, everybody's just kind of looking over and stuff. Look, everything it's all been good. I mean, you can see it on the ice. Like I said, he proved himself as a player. He's put up the points, and obviously he shined in that tournament last year too. So I don't think we have to worry about the quality and the talent. I mean, across the board, I think just, Hockey USA and Hockey Canada, and no doubt, European hockey, whether it's the Finns or the Swedes and the Russians and the Czechs and so on and so forth. I mean, the kids today that get drafted and that come in, they're just at a different level. And they've, they're all conditioned. They're all small kids. They all know how to play the game. A lot more of the draft picks, Capo being one of those guys. You can go down the line, McKinnon, McDavid, Matthews. All these kids that get, they come in right away, first year. You know what I'm saying? It's and that seems to be just a regular thing now with draft picks. They just get picked high and they usually make the roster the following year. So it just goes to show you how the training and how the education and how the skill levels of these kids now, all these organizations, and you got to tip your hat to them because they're just great. I mean, the proof is in the pudding as far as, like I said, the kids get drafted, they end up getting a roster spot, and away we go. College hockey here in the U.S., Miller's going to get his shot too here real soon. So, I mean, it's exciting, and it's great for this team. So I guess now we can safely assume he's going to be picked, KD, and let's safely assume that, we get going here next year, and there's a Stanley Cup winner after this tournament. The league decides when we're going to get back at it, training camps and everything else. Let's just have some fun here now and start thinking about this kid, he gets selected, and how it might impact all the other things that we were talking about on the last show, as far as decisions that Gorton have to make, and JD as far as going forward. How big of a deal is this for them as far as looking at the roster on paper right now in terms of contracts, moves, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's huge. I mean, the organization has to look and say, okay, we're now bringing this kid in. What does this mean for us? Obviously it's going to accelerate the rebuild, but how much? Like what is the team going to set as their expectations now for next year? And if they think this draft pick of Lafreniere now makes them, and I don't think it does, not yet, makes them like a legit, I don't want to say Stanley Cup contender, but a real dangerous team come playoff time. You know, they got to look at the roster, and they now have an embarrassment of riches on the wings, you know, and they're a little shorthanded up the middle or down the middle. So what do you do with a guy like Strome? And, you know, I've been saying all along, I still think this way, even with this draft pick. I still think that they're going to go to arbitration with him. And I think that they should get that 1-year deal and do that, kick the can until the next offseason. I still don't believe that a long-term deal for Strome is the smart way to go here. And then Hedl, you know, he's a guy that you're expecting to potentially take over as that second line center. However, in an elimination game against Carolina, he was your third line winger. So, you know, what do we do now? You know, I think that as far as down the middle, at least my opinion is that you continue with who you have. You have Zibanejad, you get the 1-year contract with Strome. You put Hedl down the middle, maybe on the third line. You do that for another year because you really don't have the cap space this year unless, Paulie, you buy out Mr. Henrik Lundqvist. Mm-hmm. And I know JD had mentioned yesterday that they are going to go. It was either him or Gordon. I forgot who said it. That they are absolutely going into the next season with 2 goaltenders. They're not going in with the 3-headed goalie monster. Praise the Lord. And that after they got off the flight from Toronto, that, you know, JD was saying he had a conversation with Lundqvist. He didn't say what that conversation was, but he said that someone with the Hall of Fame career that Henrik Lundqvist has had deserves to have a conversation with. So, you know, writing on the wall, reading the tea leaves, whatever you want to say, you know, I think they might be leaning towards that buyout. You know, what does that mean? Does that mean they start looking to bring in another center? Or does that mean they use that money to sign Strome to a long-term contract, which I hope they don't? You know, I don't know. But I think that they should continue with the rebuild incrementally, more and more. You know, last week I mentioned that, you know, Quinn, you know, the expectations are going to be raised. He's on the clock now, you know, and, you know, I think Lafreniere bumps that up a bit, but, you know, we got to see what the organization wants to do here. I don't think they want to get too greedy too quick. I think they like the way things are going. They seem to want to be patient with things. So there's definitely a lot of decisions that need to be made. And I think first and foremost, I think the center position there, now you have this sort of glut of wingers, which may lead to a trade. You know, a guy like Buchnevich, you know, that could be a guy who gets traded. And if they don't want to buy out Lundqvist, you know, maybe you package him with Georgiev. You know, there's a lot of things that they could do here, you know, up front. And you know, I haven't even mentioned the defense, which was obviously the weak part of the team. You know, I know we have guys like Andre Miller, who you mentioned, coming along, but you know, D'Angelo's contract is in flux. He's a restricted free agent. What do you do there? You know, Niles Lundqvist has said he's not coming back. You know, next year is going to stay in Sweden. So, you know, a lot of decisions to be made. You know, it'll be interesting to see what this organization thinks or what they want to do with the rebuild now that they're going to bring this kid in.
Yes. Now, here's what I'm feeling. First of all, I like what Gorton said afterwards as far as, you know, how he felt the team played and everything else, regardless of getting the pick and everything. And I like what he was talking about in terms of, they could have been a little tougher, could have worked a little harder. So I was like, that was great to hear from Gordon, okay? Because to me, he saw what was going on out there. With us getting Lafreniere right now, I'm very much in the camp right now. Look, if the Rangers had let's say Rangers beat Carolina. The Rangers weren't winning the Stanley Cup this year, all right? And they're not going to win the Stanley Cup next year, okay? So my thinking is now, and definitely getting Lafreniere it does change things. 100%, and that's Captain Obvious stuff. But I think JD and Gorton now, they really can use next year. And it doesn't have to be the whole year. But I really think they can, they don't have to rush this next year. They can, who knows how, Lafreniere plays. How does he adjust? I'm the one who was riding Capo all year, and you were giving him the hospitality treatment and all that other stuff. He's a kid and so on and so forth. So we don't know. Maybe Lafreniere, maybe he gets in, he makes camp. He has to make the team, So there's that. Obviously the Strome situation. As far as Hank, I mean, I don't, they really can't lose here one way. Wherever way they go, buy out, have him, trade Georgiev, what you just said about Buchnev and everything else. But that, again, is all stuff that they can take their time with. And we're all now talking under the assumption of a normal regular season, a normal training camp, 20 games in, 30 games in, whatever. Coach Quinn, again, same thing. Let's see how he does. Let him learn from this experience, and let's see how he adapts. And for God's sakes, I hope he works on a system. And the Rangers have to work on some basic fundamental stuff, which is what I went off on last week too. A guy like Strome, I mean, they got crushed in the faceoff circle. We talked about the dirty stuff and everything else in terms of, getting in there. So, but let's throw the Carolina thing aside. The tournament, it's done. We move forward. We got this kid now. We got this pick. JD and Gordon are obviously definitely going to make a decision on this goaltending situation one way or the other, and they'll move forward on that. And I think as far as the defense, and that's right, it's something that really, I think that's gonna evolve out of training camp next year too. And then how long do we sit back as fans? Are we still gonna hang into this rebuild thing, and we can talk about what's the benchmark for next year, playoffs or bust, or do we just continually need to see this team, grow around Panarin and Kreider and Zibanejad and Trouba and Foxy and stuff, and who knows where D'Angelo fits in this whole thing, and how Miller comes out of camp, and so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of things that are going to kind of come into place with us, and then yes, we're going to have this first round draft pick, and hopefully gets through camp and he gets a roster spot, and then we have to see how he plays and who he connects with, and again, what you brought up, roster decisions, what kind of moves are they going to make, who's going to go where, and so on and so forth, and kind of go from there. So, but I'm definitely now. Because, hey, let's just call it what it is. This is shocking that we're going to get this kid. They're going to draft this kid. So he's we've gotten better. And we're going to see, Capo mature, right? So we're already looking good. But I'm under the assumption now, Katie, that I don't know if we necessarily have to rush everything. I'm not saying that we have to be content with the way they played and to be content in terms to let the team go into a nosedive the first 20, 30 games of the season next year. But I think, the organization now, especially with this pick, gets an opportunity now to kind of, they've got some breathing room. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, KD. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm really looking forward to next year is the first Ranger Twitter fan meltdown when Lafreniere is on the fourth line with McKegg and Brendan Smith. I mean, that's really what I'm looking forward to the most next year. So
that can't happen because I'll be that guy. Better not be, man.
That really, I know, but as I've defended Quinn all year when he was sort of doing that kind of thing, I don't know if I could do that next year with this kid. With Quinn, if he actually does do that. Like, I don't think I could do that anymore because this kid cannot be anywhere lower than the third line. But actually, he's a left winger. I mean, our other two left wingers are Kreider and Panarin. Yeah. Like, who are you putting on the third line? The Frenier, which I assume